Tonight on KGW News, the first arrest of someone using drugs on public transit.
And there's got to be some kind of cap or control to the madness, you know.
How Portland police and prosecutors say they plan to handle these cases. Plus, the local creators worried about a blow to their business if a TikTok ban goes through.
It really has helped small people compete with big organizations, you know, and that is everything to me.
And later, meet the Oregon women who rode all the way from the West Coast to Hawaii. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. We begin tonight with the crackdown on drug use on public transit, with authorities making their first arrest under a new Oregon law that makes it a serious crime. Alma McCarty talked with prosecutors and got rider reaction.
On Tuesday, a sergeant with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, working a mission undercover in plain clothes, boarded a MAX train here at the Convention Center Transit Station. His purpose, to specifically track down people using drugs on board. That sergeant sat in the back of the car, observing the riders. According to court documents, he noticed one woman who didn't get off at the gateway stop, fidgeting with something in her hands and hiding her face with her jacket. Then he got closer, and once the train left the station, saw her light up.
He's trained in knowing what fentanyl smells like. He's trained in knowing indicators about when someone is trying to hide their drug use.
From there, documents show he called on other transit deputies who made the arrest.
Of course, accountability is also the goal, but it's also to give these people an opportunity to straighten the path that they're on.
As of January 1st, smoking fentanyl or using any other narcotic on a bus or train can lead to a Class A misdemeanor, a serious criminal offense.
I want to be clear, smoking has always not been allowed on transit, but this is a case that we're actually allowed to prosecute and put the person through the criminal justice system.
Deputy DA Julian Samuels and his colleague, Deputy DA Brian Hogan, handle transit cases.
And I think using a controlled substance on a transit vehicle really brings the community into what that person is doing. It's not mere possession. Now you're using drugs, impacting all those other riders who are just trying to go to work, go to school, go about their day.
We caught up with some regular riders, like Michael Zielinski.
I just kind of zone out and ignore it, you know, the best I can and just mind my own business.
He says he's glad there will be consequences for what he calls blatant usage.
It's a good thing, and that's the way it should be. I mean, come on, there's got to be some kind of cap or control to the madness, you know.
I don't know if they should go to jail for it, but I think it should be some kind of penalty.
Others, like Jarvis and Maggie, who ride TriMet usually 3 times a week, have mixed feelings about the new law, recalling one overdose they've witnessed on board.
We have seen people using fentanyl on the train. You know, I don't tell on them, though. It's not my business, but I don't think it's appropriate.
And it's a sad thing to see. And there's a little kid, I think, on the bus who's like, "Mama, what's going on?" So it's not okay. People need to be more mindful.
The deputy DAs tell me that they do expect an increase in these missions, an increase in these cases, but they wouldn't say just how many investigators are dedicated to this or how often they're going about it. In Northeast Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
By the way, the DA's office told KGW the woman was arrested yesterday, booked into jail, and released. According to court records this afternoon, she failed to appear for her arraignment. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, a judge has acquitted a former Westview High football coach of all charges stemming from an incident last summer. Coach Jamal Jones was accused of slapping and shaking teens awake at a team camp. He was arrested and charged with 12 counts of misdemeanor harassment and resigned. The Hillsborough Police Department also put him on administrative leave from his job as a police officer. In a statement, Jones thanked those who supported him and said he wants to put the incident behind him. Hillsborough Police confirmed that Jones remains employed with the department. In Tigard, authorities are searching for a suspect they say broke into the district's resource center over the weekend. Police say the suspect spent hours on site and left with personal items belonging to workers and shoes from a collection meant for families facing hardships. The property was also hit in the fall, but investigators don't think that this is the same person.
So to have these repeated burglaries and attempted burglaries has been really frustrating, I know, for the district, and our officers and investigators would like to be able to identify whoever this person is.
Police described the suspect as a white male in his 30s or 40s with a brown and gray beard and who left riding a black bicycle. And several cars were towed and stolen vehicles recovered in a Portland police mission to find cars without license plates. Today, officers arrested 2 people and cited 8 while recovering 2 stolen vehicles downtown and in the central east side. This mission comes 2 months after the city changed its codes to allow for automatic tows of vehicles without a visible VIN number and a license plate. In national headlines, President Biden gave his final address this evening from the Oval Office, and while he touched on his accomplishments in the White House, as NBC's Alice Barr reports, the president also issued a stark warning.
Parting words from President Biden as he prepares to close out a 50-year career in politics and cement his legacy.
It's been the highest honor of my life to lead you as Commander-in-Chief.
He touted today's announcement of a long-sought ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas and pointed to strengthened alliances, pandemic recovery, and gains in jobs, infrastructure, and prescription drug costs.
It will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come.
But the president's approval rating remains low and his record unfinished. His last primetime Oval Office address, his announcement that, under pressure from his own party and questions about his age and fitness, he was dropping his re-election run. Now, as he prepares to hand over power, President Biden issuing a warning.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy.
Also addressing threats from climate change, the spread of misinformation on social media, and the promise and peril of artificial intelligence, urging Americans to keep pushing forward.
Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith.
The president wishing the incoming Trump administration success while offering thanks and hopes for the future to the American people. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Any lawbreakers will be prosecuted. That is the message from DA Nathan Vasquez as authorities in Portland prepare for the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump on Monday. You may remember we saw large protests following his first swearing in 2017. This time, Portland Police Chief Bob Day says the Bureau is collaborating more with law enforcement and community partners. Officers will be working 10-hour days with an increased police presence through at least Tuesday. Well, you know what? Speaking of the transition, a day before President-elect Trump takes office, TikTok is set to be banned in the U.S. That's unless there is a last-minute ruling from the Supreme Court. CNN and the Washington Post also reporting that Trump is considering some sort of executive order that could temporarily halt the ban. New at 11, Catherine Cook talked with some Portlanders who use TikTok as a key part of their livelihoods. Catherine?
Well, David, first of all, the lawmakers who voted to ban the app worry that since it's owned by a Chinese company, the Chinese government could get access to user data or manipulate the content users see. Caught in the middle of the debate, users who've come to rely on the app for their businesses.
A catchy tune, cool camera pans, and the feeling of, ooh, I should check that place out. And well, here we are, Grand Fir Brewery in Southeast Portland. Joe Kovakovich got us. He usually does.
My job is pretty cool.
You might know Joe as the guy behind social media account LivePDX. He scours the city for mom and pop restaurants, then showcases their food, drinks, and vibes, boosting their business for free. Some of his videos have been viewed millions of times.
Organic social media has a lot of potential for reach, so it's like word of mouth on steroids.
Joe makes a living through larger paid accounts, but this is his passion, especially when it comes to his TikTok creations.
Without TikTok, we probably wouldn't be where we are today, so it really does kind of hit pretty close to home, the talks of the TikTok ban.
The U.S. Supreme Court has until Sunday to rule on a law that says TikTok has to divest from its Chinese parent company or be banned in the U.S. because of national security concerns. If the Supreme Court declares the law unconstitutional, TikTok can stay. If they don't, 170 million U.S. TikTok users will lose the app. For creators like Joe, That would be no small thing, even as other social media platforms remain.
It's not all the same consumers that are on TikTok are on YouTube and Instagram, so it hurts.
Other businesses rely on TikTok for its ability to unite various cross-sections of people. Take Seagrape Apothecary in Northeast Portland, a business that brands itself as a place for witches, empaths, queers, and bath lovers.
It's going to be a challenge finding ways to connect with like-minded magical folks without that app. We're creative, we're quirky, and we will make it happen. That's fine, but it is complicated.
Shop manager Ronnie Piper says TikTok has done wonders for boosting this small business. Now they're pivoting to other means of outreach, even going low-tech with flyers.
I would prefer for TikTok to stay around. That way we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
As millions of TikTok users wait on the app's fate, some, like Joe, point to what he calls a double standard around national security concerns.
I would say that TikTok isn't necessarily doing anything that American companies aren't already doing. I think I've received about $600 to $700 since 2016 from class action suits against Facebook Inc. at the time for stealing biometric information of my face.
For now, there are sandwiches and coffee and no debate over how delicious it all looks. In Southeast Portland, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
In an update from St. Helens tonight, the school board is launching a search for a new acting superintendent as it continues to deal with a teacher sex abuse scandal. The current acting superintendent, Stephen Webb, announced yesterday he'll be leaving at the end of the month. A private HR firm will help the district recruit. Tonight, some parents voicing concerns about the board making a pick.
I just want a safe place for our kids to learn again. And I feel like Mr. Webb had started that in the right direction, but by no means do I feel that you guys should have a say in who is going to protect our children, because you have ultimately failed our children.
The search is on a tight timeline, with the board hoping to have someone new in place by February 3rd.